15 most recent awkward WWE moments that were not scripted.
If you are brand new to our channel, we invite you to take a moment to subscribe. Just click on the lit red button as well as the gray bell. Why the bell? Well, it will let you know every time we post a new video.
15.
Brock shakes a young fan's hand. He's one of the most ruthless wrestlers both on and off the camera. In truth, that's what makes Lesnar's character so great. However, recently, we saw a rare moment of Brock actually acknowledging a fan. Of course, this was caught by various social media outlets as Lesnar not only acknowledged the fan ringside, but even shook his hand. The fun stopped there as Lesnar made his way to the back without tapping any other fans' hands. It was a moment that was surely not scripted, and kind of awkward as well. Seriously, who just shakes a fan's hand? Well, apparently Brock doesn't believe in the classic tapping of the hand. He prefers a formal handshake, even if the kid is under 12 years of age. For what it's worth, we haven't seen anything similar from Brock since this awkward fan encounter.
14.
Kalisto eats a water bottle to the face. Poor Kalisto. In this instance, not only was he down and out on the outside, but adding insult to injury, he got a water bottle straight to the face, while he was down on the ground. A typical wrestler reaction, Kalisto did a hell of a job at selling the bottle to the face. It was a rare occurrence of a fan getting involved during a show, something you just don't see that much nowadays due to the increased security and zero-tolerance policies. Who can forget the days of the Monday Night Wars, when fans would launch anything and everything in the ring? Oh wait, that was ECW. But WWE and WCW had their fair share of garbage as well. Remember that epic Hogan heel turn at Bash at the Beach and the mayhem that ensued from the fans? Man, do we ever miss those days.
13.
Braun Strowman licks Apollo Crews. When you take a look at the Raw roster and assess the most over superstars, Braun Strowman might be at the very top of the list. Finally, the WWE has found a big man with charisma and, more importantly, tremendous athleticism. He's thriving at the moment, and we wouldn't be all that surprised to see him with Universal Championship gold at some point in 2018. En route to his popularity as a babyface, Braun endured a heel run as he was put over against several talents including poor Apollo Crews, who's as gifted as any WWE superstar, but a dude who just can't seem to gain any momentum. This awkward incident did him no favors either, as Braun inexplicably went off script and licked his opponent, providing us with one of the most cringe-worthy moments in recent memory. Paige was likely smiling somewhere as she pulled a similar stunt during a match against Natalya back in the day. 12. Charlotte's Talking Smack Botch. Talking smack was a great concept, and one fans were certainly into. However, Vince decided to pull the plug on the show nonetheless. Among the top moments featured Miz and Bryan's epic angle, which elevated the A-lister to newer heights. However, if you actually watched the show, it did get awkward at times, and that's because for the most part, the questions and answers you saw were pretty much organic and not scripted. Back in the Attitude Era, such an exchange would be a breeze. However, today, with everything being scripted, some struggle to find the proper wording, and even at times, make some obvious blunders. Poor Charlotte was on the wrong end of an obvious mistake. In hyping up her feud against Natalya, Charlotte referenced Natty as Bret Hart's daughter. Yikes. Poor Anvil was likely more red than usual digesting such information.
11.
Enzo's microphone gives out twice. Enzo's prop microphone is cool and all, but we've seen it fail during a couple of awkward instances. The first time took place on the lackluster 205 Live show. In fact, both situations took place on the program. You might not have been aware, because nobody watches the darn show, so both botches flew under the radar. In the first instance, Enzo was walking down to the ring alongside Noamdar. As he was reciting his theme song, nothing was coming out, and he was literally just yelling by himself. The second instance was worse, for Drew Gulak was reciting a promo, and had no clue Enzo's microphone wasn't working. The fans started to heckle him, though poor Gulak didn't understand why. Finally, the audience helped the guy out chanting, "We can't hear you." His reaction? Make airplane noises. Seriously?
10.
10. Neville's extended entrance. The last time the Cruiserweight division was somewhat relevant, Neville was the king and the guy that was carrying the division. Backstage, however, he was miserable, and situations like this one certainly didn't help. Making his way to the ring, Neville needed to stall as the ring crew was still changing the ropes and apron for the 205 Live setup. You saw during his entrance, Neville looked absolutely repulsed. The camera crew even cut to the commentators trying to give the ring crew more time. Oh, live television. As for Neville, he remains on the sidelines at this point with no return date in sight. According to the latest speculation, conversation between the two sides has completely stopped, with Neville just sitting at home and potentially waiting for his contract to expire.
9.
9. Cameraman falls during Nikki Cross's entrance. If you've ever watched Sanity's entrance during NXT, you're likely well aware that not everything is completely dark, and smoke fills up the entranceway, adding to the mystique of the gig. Well, things got a little too dark in this instance as the cameraman fell while trying to keep up with Nikki while she was on the apron. With fog filling up while she was on the apron, the camera noticeably lost sight of the shot, and the WWE technical crew quickly changed angles to a bizarre shot of Cross's back from a distance. It obviously was not a scripted moment and one of the more awkward moments you'll ever see during an entrance. Unfortunately, they couldn't just edit the content as the show was live at a takeover event. Ouch.
8.
8. Gronk gets attacked by security guard. WrestleMania 33 certainly wasn't the greatest event, though it did provide us with a couple of interesting moments, including this awkward encounter which surely was not scripted. The incident took place during the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, with Gronk supporting his buddy Mojo ringside. You just knew he'd be getting involved somehow. Mahal would approach Gronk and tease him as a part of the show. Gronk jumped the barricade, but the only problem, one of the female security guards didn't get the memo. She quickly stopped Gronk from entering the ring, even being forceful in the act. Thankfully, a WWE agent quickly approached her and told her what was going down. Gronk made his way to the ring for the spot, but the damage was already done. It was one of the most hilarious and awkward WrestleMania moments you'll ever see. Thankfully for the company, it took place during the kickoff show.
7.
7. Goldberg's son sticks the landing. Not even Goldberg himself could have predicted the success of his return. The ordeal was originally set to be a one-off which featured Goldberg losing to Brock at Survivor Series. However, due to his popularity with the crowd, the company wisely decided to extend his stay. Following his great WrestleMania redemption match against Brock, Goldberg was given unlimited time off the air to say goodbye to the people. The spot was really cool, and it showed who Bill was behind his character. Things would take an awkward twist, however, inviting his son into the ring. Perhaps the little fellow was a little too enthusiastic as he botched his jump over the barricade and fell pretty badly. Goldberg salvaged the situation, saying, "Look, he's already taking bumps, that's one more than I ever took." Well done, Bill, well done.
6.
6. The Stiles and Kevin Owens botched finish. An awkward botch can take place at any point, even with two experienced wrestlers such as Kevin Owens and AJ Styles. We came to learn that the awkward finish at Battleground between AJ and Owens was in fact a legitimate botch. It was so bad that AJ was actually supposed to win the match. The bout came to a bizarre end with Owens picking up the 3 count in a predicament that just didn't seem right. A special 365 series on Owens confirmed the match was a big-time botch. Even Chris Jericho admitted the match didn't go as planned. According to Chris, he was scheduled to return for a one-match ordeal against only AJ, though that would be changed to a triple threat due to the fact that the company wanted a belt back on Styles immediately. Thankfully, they salvaged the situation 2 days later.
5.
5. Orton's lethal backdrop. Looking back at 2017, the Viper played the role of a babyface throughout the year. One of his longest-running feuds took place against the former WWE champion Jinder Mahal. The rivalry was meant to elevate Mahal, though it's debatable if that really was the result. The Singh brothers were utilized time and time again as a way to add even more heat on Mahal's character. Orton had his way with them time and time again, however in this case, things got a little too real. Out on the floor, Orton attempted a backdrop onto the commentary booth. The issue, Samir is incredibly light, and Orton might have overshot him a little too aggressively. At the same time, perhaps Samir oversold the spot. In any event, Samir overshot the flip resulting in one hell of a bump. Even Orton seemed a little freaked out after the maneuver, displaying a concerned smirk on his face.
4.
4. Bryan gets heated on commentary. Fans love Daniel Bryan, mainly because the dude is as real as anyone can be. He's an honest guy and perhaps for the WWE, a little too honest. Things went off the rails with Bryan on commentary during a recent episode of SmackDown Live. The incident started off straight away when he was asked how his double referee PPV match was going to work. Bryan responded by saying he had no clue. Straight up. The exchanges between Saxton and Bryan would only get worse. Daniel was incensed that Saxton didn't acknowledge what the wrestlers had done outside of the WWE. According to speculation, the heated arguing at commentary was actually between Bryan and Vince, who was in their headsets. The conversation was really uncomfortable, and it was obvious that Daniel had gone off script.
3.
3. Goldberg works a promo while. In the 90s, such an angle would be acceptable and kind of considered a norm. However, in this day and age, such content featuring blood is no longer tolerated. The hilarious non-scripted moment actually took place behind the curtain before Goldberg made his way to the ring. Bill loves to hype himself up before a match, and one of his rituals consists of banging his head on a door. Yup. He's pretty darn savage. It looks like the door got the better of him in this exchange, as he entered the ring with a noticeable gash on his forehead. It got so awkward that the ring crew had to bring in a towel for him to wipe off the blood. It also didn't help that he was a sweaty mess as well. Oh, Bill.
2.
2. Corbin embraces young fan. Corbin has done a fantastic job in keeping his heel demeanor alive both in and out of the ring. Rumors have also swirled around that he isn't the most liked backstage among his peers either, which is only a good thing as it just adds heat to his character. For those reasons, this gesture was certainly not the norm as he consoled the crying young fan ringside after his dark match loss to Nakamura. Corbin even gave the fan his shirt and received actual cheers from the crowd for his gesture. In true heel fashion, Corbin still ended up looking like the bad guy via social media, with fans making the claim that he doesn't care about random kids and only did the gesture because it was a family member. In any event, it was a great move by the Lone Wolf, but one that ended with a bit of an awkward finish given his reasoning.
1.
1. Braun and Sasha's awkward interview. Outside of the WWE, history has shown that not everyone understands the art of pro wrestling. That was quite evident during an awkward interview that featured Sasha Banks and Braun Strowman at the New York Stock Exchange promoting the SummerSlam 2017 PPV. You can just tell when an interviewer has no idea that they're talking about, and that was the case with this cringe-worthy interview. Strowman somewhat kept his character alive during the segment, which was gold. However, the interviewer wasn't playing along, laughing at most of the answers. She even asked Braun if he had a signature move. Wow. It was all so bad, and of course, the content would go viral shortly after the exchange. For what it's worth, Sasha and Braun also had terrible chemistry throughout the interview, which didn't help either.
Yeah.